Hey fellow explorers, and welcome back to another Ultimate Showdown here on Yellow Productions, where we're going to be comparing the original Disneyland in California to the new Disneyland in Tokyo. And these are both parks that I've been to numerous times. I've had annual passes to Disneyland in California since I was 21 years old, and we've been to Tokyo Disney many times, including just a few months ago when we were in Tokyo. And so we got to thinking, let's do a comparison video where we're going to be comparing these parks in 13 different areas, everything from the food to the atmosphere to the types of popcorn you might find. All right, so the first area I want to compare and contrast the original Disneyland in California in the city of Anaheim, and Tokyo Disneyland is on the history. So it's important to understand how these theme parks got started. And so Disneyland in California, its historical significance is undisputed. It is the original Disneyland where the magic of all other Disney parks come from. It was Walt's original vision that he meticulously designed every single piece of it. And it's not just a Disney park in California, is the Disney park in California. Okay, so from there, how did Tokyo Disney come around? Okay, so 1955 is when the original Disneyland opened in California. It was quite a number of years later before Tokyo Disney opened. Tokyo Disney opened in 1983. And Tokyo Disneyland is unique in the Disney parks because it is not actually owned by the Disney Corporation. It is owned by this company known as the Oriental Land Company. And the Oriental Land Company, they're essentially a real estate development firm, and they pay licensing fees to Disney to use the intellectual property and to design the rides. Now, that doesn't mean they're a completely separate company. Like, Disney Imagineers design the rides that are in Tokyo Disney as well. But the president of the Oriental Land Corporation at the time that they struck the agreement with Disney, his goal was to tell the team, don't compromise and create the real thing. And so it really feels that way going to Tokyo Disney, and in a number of ways, I think there are certainly things they say they didn't even compromise on or build the real thing. They tried to look and say, how can we actually build a better thing? Okay, so let's go ahead and compare these two now in the layout, logistics, and the environment. And so first, let's go ahead and look at the location. And so the original Disneyland is located in Anaheim, California. This is about 30 miles south of downtown Los Angeles. It is right along the Interstate 5 freeway, and it's smack dab in the middle of a city. It is definitely, the fabric of the city has grown into Disneyland in and of itself, which also makes it pretty unique. You can walk out of Disneyland and there are restaurants and hotels and convention centers and lots of city stuff that are just right outside the main gates. But it also kind of punctures the Disney bubble. Most people who go to Disneyland don't stay at one of the Disney hotels. They likely stay at one of the other hotels that are in the neighboring city. Now, the Tokyo Disney Resort, on the other hand, it was a purpose-built oasis constructed on land reclaimed from Tokyo Bay. So everything in this Tokyo Disney development is like Tokyo Disney. So you go there and you stay at a Disney hotel, or if not a Disney hotel, you stay at a Hyatt or Hilton, but fundamentally they were built for people who were going to Disneyland. There's a monorail that services all, which we'll get to as well. And so I would say if you like bubbles, like if you like Walt Disney World in Florida and Orlando where it's a big bubble, then you might like Tokyo Disney better because you can be in that Disney bubble for days. But if you're somebody who just kind of likes to be in the Disney bubble while they're at the theme park and then maybe go find a decent taco restaurant for dinner, well, you might like the original Disneyland better. Okay. So let's go ahead and now compare the size and the scale of these two parks. And so first, starting with the Tokyo Disney Resort, as we got here on the left of this picture, and then Disneyland here on the right. So the Tokyo Disney Resort, we'll start with Disneyland that I've got over here. Disneyland occupies a relatively compact 500 acres. There's two theme parks that are there. There's Disneyland, and then there's California adventure. Maybe I'll put it back in here in the corner. No, we're going to do it like this, and we're just going to get rid of me so you can see it. So you can see there's 2 theme parks. There's Disneyland, there's California Adventure, and then there's Downtown Disney that connects them all, and there's 3 hotels that are part of Disneyland. Now, the Tokyo Disney Resort, on the other hand, is a much grander scale. The parks are much bigger. The Disneyland park itself is 126 acres, and DisneySea is 176 acres. So they feel much grander than the original Disneyland. They feel much more like some of the parks in Orlando. And so because of the scale and because of the bigness, they were able to build the sidewalks bigger, the walkways bigger. And so even though the park might have just as many people, it doesn't feel as crowded because it feels like you've got more room as you're going around. Soham asks, is Tokyo Disney the biggest park outside of the USA, or is it Shanghai? I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but I think DisneySea is probably the biggest of the parks. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, though. That is just what I think. Also in the chat, Points Traveler says, can the Oriental Land Company manage the USA parks too? Bring the food prices down to DisneySea level. We're definitely going to get to prices too. That is definitely a pro in the Tokyo DisneySea category. Discipline agrees with that. So for the size and the scale, we're going to give the point to the Tokyo Disney Resort for size and scale. Unless you don't like walking very much. In that case, Disneyland is more compact. You see, I go both ways on both of these, but Brandon Torres, aka Blue Tornado 14, is giving us a running tally here. So we got, Disneyland 0, Tokyo Disneyland 1. All right, so I guess now we're at Tokyo Disneyland 2, because it's bigger. Okay. So now let's go ahead and talk about the 4th area, which is transportation. And this is a difference of functional transportation versus thematic transportation. And so the transportation at Disneyland in California is primarily functional. It's designed to move guests from large parking structures to the main entrance via trams and buses. And there's this monorail. The monorail at Disneyland, even though you might think it's a transit system, it's not really designed to be transit. It's really much more of a ride that will bring you from the Disneyland Hotel or one edge of downtown Disney into Tomorrowland, part of Disneyland, and back. So it's kind of interesting in that perspective that it goes from outside the theme park into the theme park, and it's just those are 2 stops, 2 stations. That's all there is. It's free to ride at Disneyland. The Tokyo Disney Resort, however, the monorail is completely different. The monorail is really a core part of the thematic experience at the Tokyo Disney Resort. And when you get on board, it's not just kind of some boring seats, but the monorail itself is, each car has different themes. So this car that we were in had a Duffy theme, and you can see there's little, like, the handles that you hold on to are Mickey ears. There was a different car that was Minnie themed, and like it was magical every time we got on the monorail, and people would just be on it, kind of amazed and like, wow, this is a cool method of transportation. The Tokyo Disney monorail has 4 stops. It connects the JR Mahima station, which is the main public transit train that comes into Tokyo Disney, and then the monorail has 4 stops that go in a circle around the park that goes to the Tokyo Disney Park. It goes to some of the hotels, it goes to Tokyo DisneySea, and then brings you back to the station. Other difference, it is not free. You do have to pay a fare to ride the monorail in Tokyo, 300 yen for a single ticket, so about $2 US. Cheap. And people are telling me it is Shelley May. Yeah, well, that picture is Shelley, but there's Duffy. there's Duffy on the train too. So yes, thank you for. It's good when I'm doing a Disney stream that people are like, Chris, it's a Bo, it's not Duffy. Now some of you watching this might be like, who is Shelley May and who is Duffy? We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. Okay. And yes, if you are a regular viewer of Yellow Productions live streams, when I pop up things in the chat, you'll notice people's names have changed a little bit because now YouTube is showing handles instead of the name that people have put there. So you might not recognize the names of some of these. I think RGY here is Grant. So good to see you too. Okay. So, who gets the point on that one? I think Tokyo Disney gets the point on the transportation. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the park experiences inside the parks themselves, starting with the 2 Disney parks. So we're going to start with the castle parks, Disneyland and Tokyo Disney, and then we're going to go to California Adventure and Tokyo DisneySea. So we're going to compare the first parks first, and then we're going to compare the second parks second. Okay, so at Disneyland, coming in, the first thing you see once you walk through the ticket gate and walk around the train station is Main Street. This is the iconic Main Street in Disneyland. It's got the castle all the way down there at the end. It is a faithful recreation of a turn-of-the-century American town inspired by Walt Disney's childhood home in Missouri. It's anchored by the classic Main Street train station and the castle at the end. Tokyo Disneyland's welcome, on the other hand, is a lot more lackluster. And although this picture I lifted from the Tokyo Disney website, thank you, Tokyo Disney, is a really cool picture that they took because their castle's a little bit taller. Their Main Street, because it rains so much, is less of a long street and more of a covered shopping mall of sorts. They call it the World Bazaar, and while it represents the same kind of turn-of-the-century American theme, it's a dramatically different experience just being in this cover instead of an open-air area. And I don't think the entrance is as cool at Tokyo Disney as it is at the California Disneyland. So California Disneyland is getting a point on this one. Okay, so now let's go ahead and compare the rides. I want to talk about the rides for a little bit. And so there are many classic attractions that are shared between the 2 parks. Pirates of the Caribbean, for example, is at Disneyland in California, and it is at Tokyo Disneyland. And so whether you're going to go point for Disneyland or point for Tokyo Disney depends on whether you like the new rides or whether you like the classic rides. And by that, I'll say that Tokyo Disney has tended to keep their rides in the more classic state, where Disneyland has kind of evolved them over time. For example, in the Pirates of the Caribbean, one of the original scenes was the wench auction. That's been removed or changed in California. The Jungle Cruise, they kind of they did update that one in Tokyo, and the script is entirely delivered in Japanese. So if you don't understand Japanese, that might not be as good for you. And then we've got Splash Mountain. Many people, I think, don't enjoy the new theming of Splash Mountain in California, which is now Tiana's like Bayou Adventure or something like that. But if you are a purist and want to visit the original ride, you can visit the original ride at Disney Tokyo. Also, the surrounding land around Splash Mountain, Critter Country, I think they did a better job of theming in Tokyo. Justin says, is Space Mountain like California or Florida? I believe Space Mountain in Tokyo is currently under renovation, but the last time I rode it, it was more like the one in Florida, which was smaller and slower, is how I would describe it. When I went on Space Mountain in Tokyo, I was too tall. I had to like cross my legs in order to get in. So it was definitely not designed for 6-foot tall riders. I agree with you. So it was more like the one in Florida. I agree with you. I prefer the Space Mountain in California. Discipline says, Sinbad was the weirdest ride I've ever been on. Tell me why so much. Okay. Yip Animation says, as someone who's inspired by Walt Disney himself, I much prefer Disneyland and California Adventure over Tokyo Disney and DisneySea. And is that because Is that because the original Disneyland it's like the original? That's where the history comes from. So that's where you get your joy from. Okay, now let's go ahead and compare so I didn't give either a point in that one, so that's time. Okay, so now let's talk about the e-ticket rides, just like the big rides at the two parks. Disneyland versus Tokyo Disney. The two unique rides, like super awesome rides that are unique at Tokyo Disney. One is Pooh's Honey Hunt. This opened in the year 2000. It had a budget of $130 million and was really considered as revolutionizing Disney's trackless ride system. It's something we've seen done on a lot more Disney rides since this one, but this is an original there in Tokyo Disney, and it's a really cool ride. Also, the newly opened in 2020 is the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast. It is the centerpiece of the Fantasyland expansion in Tokyo Disney. This was built at a $250 million budget, and it places guests in giant teacups that go around also in a trackless system. Which, by the way, looking at like what they invest in Tokyo, they like this classic Disney IP, Winnie the Pooh, Beauty and the Beast, where Disney has really invested in the California park is in Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars themed land, is amazing. Whether you're a Star Wars lover or not, and I will say I'm a Star Wars lover. My wife, OC Girl, is not a Star Wars lover, but when we were at Disneyland in California, just like a week and a half ago, this is actually what started this, because she goes like, so many people are over the moon with Tokyo Disney. Everybody says everything there is better, but like they don't have a Galaxy's Edge. Like this is an amazingly themed land, and so this is coming from somebody who is not a Star Wars fan. They've really done a good job, and in particular, the characters in Galaxy's Edge, the employees that are there, they play the part, and so they really make you feel like when you talk to them, like when you order something at a store, when you approach people, when you ride the rides, how they talk to you, they're all in this foreign space theming level of speak. Like they're actually actors and actresses who work in this. But there's a ride there, the newest of the rides. There's two rides there. There's the Millennium Falcon ride, which opened when Galaxy's Edge opened. And then there's this ride, which is the Rise of the Resistance. And I will just say it this way. From OC Girl, who is not a Star Wars fan, she says the Rise of the Resistance is the best Disney ride she's ever been on. It is amazing. Disney clearly spared no expense on this ride, and it is one of those that is like absolutely hard to describe, but the scale and the size and the visual wonder and the acting as you go on it and the surprises, really quite impressive. Okay, and then same thing here, that the Curious Princess, she doesn't know anything, she hasn't watched any of these Star Wars movies, but absolutely loved it. Yeah, Discipline says, so at this part of the ride, you are leaving the cargo ship and you're getting interrogated, and they're sending you into interrogation chambers. And so Discipline says they're surprised that I got a photo right here in front of the stormtroopers because the Imperial soldiers yelled at them. There we go. Okay. And EMT for Tokyo says Beauty and the Beast is amazing. All right. Soham says, I can't wait for Chris to talk about the Disney food items. Oh, and Sean says, Disney Plus has a ride-through for Rise of Resistance if you've never been on it. Thank you so much for the tip. Okay. So, the +1 here is going to go to the original Disneyland just because of Galaxy's Edge is quite amazing. In particular, this ride, Rise of the Resistance. Okay. So let's go ahead now on to the second gate parks. Oh, I had one more, which is in Toontown. They built this new trackless ride called Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway that I think is overlooked for people who visit Disneyland because it's in Toontown, like the Kiddie Land. But this is a pretty cool ride too. Next time you're there, you might never go to it because it's behind the small world and behind the train tracks and people don't find it. But make sure you make a trek over there. Okay. So now, looking at the other parks, looking at the second gates, there's the Disneyland, and then there's a secondary park at both of these. So it's Disney California Adventure, and that's Disney Tokyo Sea. So Disney Tokyo Sea and Disney California Adventure were both opened in actually the same year, in 2001. But they are very different parks. Tokyo DisneySea, when it opened, was a masterpiece from day one. DisneySea is frequently cited by theme park connoisseurs as the best theme park in the world. It was conceived with a more mature audience in mind. It is a theme park based on nautical exploration, romance, and grand adventure, drawing on maritime myths and legends. Now, Disney California Adventure's theme is California. There we go, funny. It's kind of funny to build a California theme park in California, but they tried to bring the best elements of California, things from San Francisco, things from the Rocky Mountains, things from the fairs of California, and all put it in this Disney park. But boy, California Adventure took a long time to get going. It really struggled. Really struggled when it opened. And when California Adventure opened, it was really pretty lame. There wasn't much of the Disney IP in there, and so honestly, in 2001, it would be like we would visit California Adventure 1 of every 10 times we would visit Disneyland. Now, they've added a lot of new lands in California Adventure, and they've brought in new IP. They've brought in Cars Land. They've brought in the Adventures Campus, and California Adventure is now a strong contender to Disneyland for where you should spend your time. But I am going to give the point here to Tokyo DisneySea as a just general feel of the two parks. Okay, the park layout here, which this doesn't get a vote, but just to give you an idea of how these things look, this is how Tokyo DisneySea is laid out. We've got the Mediterranean Harbor. We've got the American waterfront. By the way, the original plans for Tokyo DisneySea were drawn up to be built as a park in Long Beach, California. Long Beach turned Disney down, and so these plans were there, and Tokyo picked it up, and so that's why there's an American waterfront, and that's why there's a cruise ship looking thing back there. That was originally intended to be the Queen Mary, the cruise ship, the sister ship of the Titanic that is in Long Beach, so they built a scale replica of it to put at Tokyo Disney. They've got this mysterious island with a big volcano. They've got Port Discovery, which is like a futuristic nautical port. The Lost River Delta, which is primarily around the Indiana Jones ride. The Mermaid Lagoon, which you could say is kind of like the Little Mermaid or like the Kiddie Land. The Arabian Coast, which is roughly based on what's the word I'm looking for? Like Aladdin, and then Fantasy Springs, which is their newest land, which has Frozen ride, Peter Pan, and a Rapunzel ride over there, and a new hotel that's in the back. There's two entrances to Tokyo DisneySea. The main entrance down here by the Mediterranean Harbor, and then an entrance that only hotel guests can get to back there in Fantasy Springs. The layout of California Adventure looks like this. It has a competing main street to Disneyland's main street. Disneyland's down at the bottom. They've got this thing called Buena Vista Street, and then there's a restaurant at the end of it, Carthay Circle Restaurant, that has a steeple, and it's basically designed to be the castle of California Adventure. They've got Hollywood Land over there to the left, over to the it's hard. Over to the right, they've got Grizzly Peak, which is roughly the mountains in California Adventure. Cars Land, the funnest new land, in the back. This is an old map, so it's got A Bug's Land on it, which has been replaced by the Avengers Campus. Pacific Wharf, which is kind of like a food court, has also now been replaced by San Francisco. It's a San Francisco combined with Tokyo vibe, and is so much better than the original San Francisco theme. And then the Paradise Pier section back here in the back, this has been themed on the Pixar universe. Okay, so that's the layout of those two parks. Now I want to talk about the rides, the signature attractions, after I take a few comments from the live stream and drink. What am I drinking today? Today I am drinking Galvanina organic ginger beer. We were at Italy this past weekend at Westfield Century City, and OC Girl saw this and just loved how decorative the bottle was. she really wanted it for the bottle and not for the ginger beer because she doesn't like ginger beer. I do, so we'll drink it on the live stream. And then the bottle can be her prop for photos later. And wow, that is a strong ginger beer. This ginger beer is made in Italy, of all places, so it's got some good pedigree to it. Gives you that kind of like ginger burning sensation as it goes down there. This will keep me healthy, I think. Okay. Yes, Blue Tornado says, ginger beer is on the menu tonight. It is. Yip Animation says, Buena Vista Street is one of the main roads here in the animation capital of the world. The Walt Disney Studios is at Riverside, Buena Vista. Yes, an actual street out there in the real world. Soham says, I wish they could make a Disney park in Hawaii. Riley says, fun fact about that Tokyo DisneySea that was going to originally be built in Long Beach. They were going to build the monorail extension to Long Beach. That would have been so awesome. It's so lame that never happened. And Riley says, California Adventure is just a jumbled mess. It is kind of a jumbled mess. That's right. And my biggest whale asks, is there alcohol in that beer? This is a non-alcoholic. So, I mean, you could call it like ginger ale. I don't know what the difference is, why you would call one a ginger ale and why you'd call it a ginger beer at some point, but it says it has 36 grams of sugar, so sweet, but it doesn't taste sweet. I think the sugar is just to try to help balance out the ginger. Discipline says, drink the ginger beer between sushi paces. And Justin says, did you try Bundaberg? I enjoy Bundaberg ginger beer in Australia. Yes. Okay. So let's go back to our comparison. And now we're going to compare the signature attractions between Tokyo DisneySea and Disney California Adventure. So I mentioned to you that their newest rides in the Fantasy Springs area is the Frozen ride, which is really impressive. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, Frozen themed, and at points your boat goes backwards, which is really cool. This is the current like most popular ride at Tokyo Disney. The Peter Pan ride is so much better than the Peter Pan ride at Disneyland, like the old school, because they haven't really changed it. The Tangled ride or the Rapunzel ride, clearly, I feel like they clearly cheaped out on that one. They've also got, in the big volcano, they've got Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is a hybrid dark ride and high-speed thrill ride. It's kind of like you go 75 kilometers an hour, so roller coaster thrill. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. They've got the Tower of Terror drop ride, but it is what was originally the Hollywood Tower Hotel in California Adventure. They've rethemed that based on Guardians of the Galaxy in Anaheim. Here, it has the original theming, but it is not based on the Twilight Zone theme. It is based on its own Japanese cursed idol story, which is really interesting to ride. If you don't like drop rides, you won't like it either, but the story is cool to check out. Soaring is pretty similar in both parks, the ride itself, but the Soaring ride experience to get on it is a much cooler line experience at Tokyo DisneySea. The pre-show goes through the Museum of Fantastic Flight, and there's a ton of cool effects just while you're waiting in line. And then somebody talked about the Sinbad ride. Many people describe the Sinbad ride as one of Disney's best boat rides, but it is it's reminiscent of It's a Small World if it was themed in the story of Sinbad. Now, over at California Adventure, definitely the most popular ride at California Adventure is Radiator Springs Racers. This one's in Cars Land. It is based on the ride at Epcot in Orlando, the test track ride, and they took that ride where you go fast in cars, and then they themed it based on the movie Cars, and they put it in Monument Valley, this fake backdrop that totally looks real and totally looks like the mountains in Arizona. There's a really neat, unique roller coaster, California Adventure, the Incredicoaster. That's a looping roller coaster, and in the Avengers Campus, they have a new Web Slingers ride. But I will say of these rides, while Radiator Springs Racers is cool, I think Tokyo DisneySea has more better e-ticket rides, and so this point is going to go to Tokyo DisneySea. Okay. Let's talk about nighttime experiences. The spectacle, parades and nighttime spectaculars. And Disneyland is home to the original Main Street Electrical Parade, which I love to watch. It's their nighttime parade. It's a lot of fun. The parades at Disneyland are amazing. But it seems like they kind of like wound it down at Disneyland, or they just don't do it as grand as they used to. But at Tokyo Disney, man, the electrical parade is alive and well, and it's super amazing. Back from a while ago, this is probably 10 years ago, I did a whole video of the electric parade at Tokyo DisneySea if you want to see the size and scale of these massive floats. What I think is also really interesting between the two parks is a culture about watching the parades. And so in California, they'll just sit on the ground. Americans do. You want to sit, you sit on the ground. In Tokyo, you bring something to sit on. So they'll all bring like a mat or something or a towel that they unfold and they sit on the towel instead of sitting on the ground. And ultimately feels like in Tokyo, a much more a peaceful time waiting for the parades, and also a much more cordial environment that, like, if you've got the front seat, nobody's gonna like try to stand or angle their way to get in front of you. People are gonna be respectful about that. Where like in California, if you've got the front seat for anything, you know, fireworks, this and that, you're always kind of being like, okay, make yourself as big as possible, because otherwise somebody's gonna try to get themselves in front of you. And Riley says, right now we have Painted the Night, which is more comparable to Dreamlight than the original electrical parade, at least in my opinion. Thank you for sharing that, Riley. There are also, if we look at that's the next one, the water, the fireworks shows, and things like that. At Disneyland, the capstone show is Fantasmic. And at Tokyo DisneySea, they have a big nighttime spectacular called Believe Sea of Dreams. They're both cool and different in their own way. In the Tokyo Disney parks, they have much more of like a lottery-based system, or like pay to get into the reserved seating areas. The California parks, the way they've done their reserved seating is they're all part of dining packages. So if you want to get like reserved seats or a reserved viewing area, then you should look into buying an associated dining package that you're going to spend $90 for a dinner that's only worth $20, but what you're really paying for is you're paying for some up front and close seats. Okay. Anyway, I think the nighttime experiences both have their pros and cons, but if you like the electrical parade, then the pro is going to go to Tokyo Disney. Okay, because I think it was way cool. Let's talk about the cultural experience now. And this is one where this could go either way on which park wins, because there's a little bit about, like, in Tokyo, English is not their primary language, and although there's English everywhere, and although everyone speaks English, you know, you go on the Frozen ride and it is in Japanese, and you go see the stage shows and they are in Japanese, and so there is some lost in translation magic that's lost on some of those things if you don't speak a lot of Japanese. But I would say, even though there might be this lost in translation thing, the experience at Tokyo Disney is definitely deeply shaped by the Japanese cultural norms of hospitality, respect, and order. And I take with this picture where the Curious Prince and I, we were standing around and a cast member just came and asked if we'd like them to take a picture of us. That's never happened at Disneyland in California, unless it was from a PhotoPass photographer whose job was to do that. But in this case, we had that a couple times where people just offered to take our picture, and that wasn't their job to take pictures. So I really find that, like, even though Disneyland is clean, Tokyo Disney is cleaner. I mean, I don't know how they keep the park so clean, and it probably has to do with the people who go there, that they just don't throw trash in the middle of the street that has to be picked up. Did you know that when managers walk around Disneyland in California, like supervisors, and they're going around to check the park, they always carry trash picker-uppers, like those things that you squeeze to pick them up, because that was always Walt's thing about, like, the only way we're going to keep this park immaculate is that everybody's got to go in, so supervisors, when you go around, you pick up the trash too. But I don't think they have to do that in Tokyo. I just don't think the trash gets generated and thrown around on the street. People are respectful about where they put that. Also, the lines are much more patient and orderly in Tokyo than they are in California. I think that that's a respect for, like, there will be a line, we will be in the line is 3 hours, but you know what? We all know what we are getting into. Skip the line options. So this is something that's a little bit different in the two parks. And so at Disneyland is where they originated this notion of the fast pass, where you could get these certain passes that you could skip the line. Disneyland no longer has the fast pass. They now have this thing called the Lightning Lane, and it is this, I'd call it like fairly complicated system, but you pay extra on top of your park ticket, starting around $30 per day, but it varies on demand and it can sell out. And then you can skip the line on about 20 different rides, but you can only book one attraction at a time to skip, and then you can reserve your next one 2 hours later or when you've used your previous ones. The most popular attractions at each park, think Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland and Radiator Springs Racers at California Adventure. They're not included in this buy once, use a whole bunch of times Lightning Lane multi-pass. In that case, they have individual Lightning Lanes that you then have to pay based on demand. So if it's a busy day, you might pay $18 to ride Rise of the Resistance or to skip the line. You might pay $18 to skip the line, or if it's a busy day, you might pay $28 to skip the line. Now, what Tokyo Disney has done is basically they don't have this like $30 use it as much as you want system. Basically, if you want to skip the line on any ride, every ride is priced individually to do that. So you don't pay to skip a bunch of rides in an unlimited fashion. You just fix price. This ride is 1,500 yen to skip the line. This ride is 2,500 yen to skip the line. Works out to be about $10 to $17. They do the same for shows. If you want to see the shows at Tokyo Disney, you can enter the lottery to try to like win a seat, but you can also just go and pay $10 and then you can get a guaranteed seat into the show. I actually really loved that. I loved being able to not have to wait around, not have it be first come, first serve, and just know that I have a seat, even though it cost me $10, means that I could walk in 5 minutes before showtime. I know I'm going to get my seat, and I know nobody's going to be in it. Yes, and Riley says, you can stack with the Lightning Lane. You have to wait an hour. You can stack with the Lightning Lane. You can get one, and then if it's not up for 2 hours, it's 2 hours. Well, at least when we were there. We were there last weekend. We had to wait 2 hours before we could get our next Lightning Lane reservation. And yes, if your Lightning Lane, if we got in the park at 9 and we got Space Mountain at 1 p.m., then at 11 a.m. we could get another Lightning Lane pass. But it's kind of a similar thing at Tokyo Disney. When you buy the Premier Access passes, you can buy to skip the line, but then you have to wait till you use that one. You have to wait 2 hours before you can buy the next one. But you don't have to. It's not like here's one unlimited thing and then buy these other things. They're all just like a la carte buy the tickets. Okay. So which one wins in that perspective? I find that the Tokyo DisneySea system is just more simple to use. Because you're going to pay to skip lines of more rides, the price of the ticket is a lot cheaper to get in the base park of Tokyo DisneySea. Or Tokyo Disney. It seems more like they've almost gone back to Walt's original vision of having, A through E ticket rides. Okay. And this was looking at these are looking at like screenshots inside the app. So you could see over there on the left, like when you select your experience, Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure was 2,000 yen, or Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is not as high demand of a ride, was cheaper. And then looking at like the screenshot in the middle, that was of like the different experiences that we did that day, because they were all in the app. We got like we got the Premier Access Pass, we got a food order, we got like a show ticket, and so it kind of gives you that all in the day. And then you could see like when we got our show ticket that we had to pay for, then we got, wherever our seats were. Okay. Talking about food. Somebody said they were really excited for Chris to talk about food. And whoop, whoop. This button is what I wanted. All right, so while dining is a part of any theme park visit at Tokyo Disney Resort, the dining experience is elevated to a whole new level with variety, creativity, and cultural significance that I think is not found in Anaheim. First is the popcorn phenomenon. And while there's some different flavors of popcorn in the California theme parks, there are so many different flavors of popcorn at Tokyo Disney. It has like 15 different flavors in each park, from garlic shrimp popcorn to white chocolate popcorn, and they're all really good. Well, I don't know. The Curious Princess didn't think the garlic shrimp popcorn was going to be all that good, but like soy sauce and butter, curry, corn, black pepper, milk tea flavor, and then they have all these really incredible collectible popcorn holders that you can get that you stick around your neck, and then you get cheaper prices to refill the popcorn in that thing. Of course, we had to get a Duffcorn popcorn holder while we were there. Also, the meals themselves are elaborately themed in Tokyo. This is the food from the Frozen restaurant. I don't remember the name specifically. Some like maybe Anna and Elsa's Royal Table or something like that. But you can see it comes in this like, just like everything just looks really nice as you get it. And it's not so much the California Disneyland. There's a con though. So they've really, like, the restaurants themed beautifully. The food comes out looking deliciously. It's not that tasty though. not that tasty. I particularly for people who haven't developed an appreciation for Japanese Western food, particularly the Curious Princess. As a 5-year-old, she's looking at all this like Japanese Western food, going like, what is this? And if you saw this video that we did on Tokyo DisneySea, and she went around her kids' meal there, and I'm like, so what do you like on your kids' meal? She goes, I like the apple juice, I like the milk, and I like the bread. She didn't like anything else. So there's a lot more food for picky Western style eaters to eat at Disneyland, and a lot more basic things from fried chicken to burgers that are kind of hard to go wrong. So in this case, just from a like, even though I love the dining experience at Tokyo and I like Japanese food and this and that, I think I personally prefer the food at California better, but it's the basic American food. It's the fried chicken, it's the corn dogs, it's the gumbo. Those are the solid things that you should stick to at Disneyland in California. So +1 here to Disneyland in California for the actual food. Okay, we're now going to compare this in area number 12, which is we're going to compare it in the Souvenir Empire. Merchandise and shopping. And so I said we're going to talk about Duffy right here. So let's talk about the phenomenon that is Duffy. Here we have a picture of Duffy the Disney bear and all of Duffy's friends that include Shelly May that the Curious Princess is holding in her hand. So really, if you're not familiar with Duffy, and I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't, well, for those of you that are probably here watching this video live, you probably are, because you've watched my recent video on Tokyo DisneySea where I talk about it. But if you're new here, then and you aren't that familiar with Tokyo Disney, then you might not be familiar, because Duffy doesn't play a significant role in almost any other Disney park around the world, but at Tokyo DisneySea, Duffy is the cultural mega hit. And the story behind Duffy the Disney Bear is that Mickey, while he was on his sea voyage, he was going out to sea on his ship, Minnie gave him this stuffed bear to keep him company while he was at sea, and gave it to him to carry in his duffel bag to take on board the ship, and that's why he was named Duffy. They've made a set of other characters that go along with him, Shelly May, Gelatoni, Stella Lou, and you don't just purchase the stuffies there. Guests purchase costumes for their bears, they carry their bears from home into the park, they bring strollers for their bears, they pose with photos with their Duffy bears, and really this interactive engagement with the merchandise and the Duffy bears adds a whole different level and a central part of the Tokyo Disney experience. There's also just a lot of unique merchandise in Tokyo. And I think that for this, like, if you compare apples to apples, meaning like if you compare a Winnie the Pooh stuffy sold in Japan to a Winnie the Pooh stuffy sold in the USA, the Japanese one is cuter. It just is. It's cuter. It's better made. But there is a smaller selection. There are less items in Tokyo. There are many more items in California. So if you want variety, it's California. If you just want specifically cute things, particularly Duffy, then it's going to be Tokyo Disney. And I guess this becomes one about, like, for us, you know, we look at these Japanese ones and we're like, these are cute, and we can never get them, so we buy more when we're there. And, you know, we live just 10 miles from California, so we just know they're right down the street, so we don't need to we don't need to buy as many things each time we go to Disneyland. Okay, so I'm going to give those a tie on the shopping. But there's a second part to shopping, which there is definitely going to be a winner in this one. This isn't about souvenirs, but this is the shopping experience, or the shopping mall experience. Each park has its own shopping mall. At Disneyland in California, that is Downtown Disney that you see right here. This is the outdoor open-air promenade that connects the two theme parks to the Disneyland Hotel, and the parking, shops, restaurants, and it's really fun. Like, we go there as locals in California just because it's a neat place to hang out in. Always vibrant, always buzzing. We enjoy going to Downtown Disney. We don't enjoy having to pay for parking, but that's just the joy that it is to go to Disneyland. Now, if we compare that to Tokyo Disney's Ikspiari shops, this is a multi-level indoor-outdoor shopping mall that has way more shops than Downtown Disney has. There's over 100 shops in here. There's a 16-screen movie theater, but honestly, struggles. It really struggles. It's hard to find anything in there. It doesn't seem that lively. There's a lot of stores that are out of business in the Ikspiari shops. It doesn't feel Disney. It doesn't feel Disney and thought out and complete like Downtown Disney does. Downtown Disney absolutely keeps you in that Disney bubble that I mentioned. Like, if you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel or the California Adventure or the Grand Californian and you're going to the parks, you like, when you walk that shopping mall, you still feel Disney. And you go to this thing in Tokyo Disney and you're like, well, I've come transplanted definitely to a mall that is not a Disney mall, even though it is, but it doesn't feel that way. I don't know why that is, but because of that, the point goes to Disneyland for the shopping experience. Laura agrees with me. It is not very cohesive, too many hallways, and it's like, I get lost. I get lost in there all the time. Art says, I am in live stream beast mode. Focus to the max level. There we go. Yip Animation says, do you ever park at the Garden Walk when going to Downtown Disney? The first hour is free, then it's $4 an hour afterwards. Yes, if I'm only going to be there for like 2 hours and I'm not planning to buy anything. Usually, if we're going to Downtown Disney, we're going to like eat or something like that. And so if we go eat at Din Tai Fung or we go eat at Earl of Sandwich or something like that, then usually we spend enough money to get the validation and then pay, $10 for the 4 hours of parking or something like that. Yip Animation agrees that the Ikspiari Mall feels too commercial in certain areas, to be honest. EMT says, we did not make it to Ikspiari. I heard the same, and the Disney store was closed for renovations. So there's a Disney store, and honestly, I feel like the Disney store itself isn't that great in Ikspiari, but there's in front of Tokyo Disneyland, there's Bon Voyage, which is actually the big Disney gift shop. But even cooler in Tokyo is the Disney flagship store in Shinjuku, which that's the Disney store to go to, which is kind of weird. It's not actually on the Disney property, but the coolest Disney store in Tokyo flagship store in Shinjuku. Okay. Discipline also agrees with me that Ikspiari feels like a ghost town. Discipline also says, will I take the princess to Sanrio Puroland in the future? I hope to. It was on our agenda of things to do on our last trip to Tokyo, but just didn't make the cut. Okay. Let's talk about hotels now. And both places have on-property hotels. The Disneyland Resort has 3 in California, has 3 official on-site hotels. The most luxurious craftsman-style Disney Grand Californian Hotel, the recently renovated Disneyland Hotel, and the newly rethemed Pixar Place Hotel. The Tokyo Disney Resort has a much broader set of hotels. There's this hotel, which is the Hotel Miracosta in front of DisneySea, which is really cool. It's like built into the park. You can get a room and you can look out in the park. We really loved our stay there. And they're like, the rooms are themed after characters. It's just an awesome hotel. They have a new uber luxury property, the DisneySea Fantasy Springs Hotel. They've got a Disney Toy Story Hotel, Disney Celebration Hotel. There's a lot. Point is, there's a lot more Disney hotels to choose from at Tokyo Disney, but in Anaheim, you can probably stay for cheaper because in Anaheim, not on property, but because in Anaheim, there's a lot of like smaller motels that are just outside the Disney park. But this is one where if you like the Disney bubble, then Tokyo Disney, that's the place to stay because the hotels are cheaper, frankly. Like the Hotel Miracosta here, we stayed in a really nice room. It was one that got us early entry into the theme parks. It was $600 US. If you compare it to a similar room at the Grand Californian, you'd be paying $900. At Tokyo Disney, you can still get early entry into the parks by staying at some of the higher end on-site hotels. At Disneyland in California, they have just recently done away with the early entry perk. Well, maybe January or something like that. I don't know if it's gone yet, but going away soon. And instead, if you're staying on property at Disneyland, they give you a complimentary Lightning Lane pass. Not as cool as getting into the parks early, of just one of the lucky few staying on property. But ultimately, I would say the +1 is going to go to Tokyo Disney for the lodging and accommodations, for the lower price, the increased hospitality, and the early access into the parks if you are staying at the top tier ones. The stay at the Hotel Miracosta was magical in its own way. If you've not seen my review for that, definitely check it out when you're done with this video. Art says, can you walk out of Disney without having spent less than $500? Probably not. By the time you've paid for admission tickets, well, if you got a family of 3, definitely not. Okay. Let's talk about the cost. Let's talk about the price. So when all factors are considered, the price for Tokyo Disney presents a pretty compelling value proposition. So park tickets to get into the Tokyo Disney Resort, a one-day passport ranges from 7,900 yen to 10,900 yen. That's approximately $55 to $75. At the most expensive, $75 US. In contrast, a peak single park ticket for Disneyland can be near $200. So you can get into Tokyo DisneySea for a third of the base price of getting into Disneyland in California. Tokyo DisneySea also has weeknight evening tickets that you can get in on a weeknight after 5 p.m. for about half the price. Not half the price of the Disneyland ticket, but half the price of the DisneySea ticket. So like, think $30 to get in if you just want to go in for a few hours on a weeknight. Which is also interesting because you might think, oh, well, in California, if you go in like after 5 o'clock, it's a madhouse and the lines are super long because the California parks really, they start to get going after dark. They really do. And the California parks can be well open till midnight on many nights of the year, where Tokyo Disney has pretty set hours. Tokyo Disney is generally 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day of the year. California, again, they can be open as early as 8 and they can go as late as midnight. In Tokyo Disney, once the sun sets, the crowd levels drop off like sharply. And so going in for a weeknight can actually be a pretty good value because you can go in, you don't need to buy the lightning lane passes. The ride lines get super short. So keep that keep that on top of mind if you're going to, if you're like, I don't know, is it worthwhile going in on my first night there for just a few hours? Yes, the answer is yes. Okay, so we talked about the park admissions cheaper. We talked about the hotel rate can be, you know, considerably less. Food, considerably cheaper in Tokyo too. A full counter service meal at a restaurant in Tokyo Disney can be like $10 to $12, and a bottled soda can cost you like $1.50. Mini ears? That's the best way to compare prices on things. How much are mini ears? Mini ears, I couldn't believe it. We bought the Curious Princess a pair of mini ears at Disneyland this past weekend. You know how much mini ears are at Disneyland? $35. $35 for a pair of mini ears. The same, well, the Japanese version of the mini ears, we'll call them the same. The same mini ears at Tokyo Disney are about 2,500 yen, which is about $16. Like less than half the price. So looking at just like the cost of getting into the park, having a meal, having a snack, having a drink, buying a pair of mini ears, going in, and this doesn't include skipping the lines. This is just like getting into the park. Getting into the park, having a meal, drink, and buying mini ears is going to cost you about $260 at Disneyland California, or about $111 at Tokyo Disney. Now, you go on all the rides and things like that, you pay more, but you're still coming out ahead at Tokyo Disney than you are at California Disney. So the plus point in cost is definitely going to be Tokyo. Okay, let's talk about navigating as a foreigner the language barrier between these parks. I did talk about this a little bit earlier, but I think it's worthwhile to mention here, which obviously if you're an English speaker, which you probably are because you're watching this channel, unless you're watching me translate it into a different language, and in that case, how do I sound in YouTube's auto-dubbed Spanish? I would say there is a language barrier in Tokyo, and where it's most noticeable is not in signage. The signage is all pretty good like this. Like you can look at this, and there's some Japanese, and there's some English, and pretty much everything is signed this way, dual English and Japanese. Everything you need to know is there. The cast members' fluency is not universal. Cast members are exceptionally well trained, and they're definitely going to figure out an answer to your question, even if it means they have to get somebody else to help them do that. Where this becomes the biggest, the biggest thing is like riding some of the rides, like the Jungle Book rides, the Jungle Cruise, things like that, where you're like, oh, everything's in Japanese. So I wish I could understand it. You know, you ride Frozen, you could sing along in the songs, but you know, there's a little bit of, I think, the Curious Princess, the rides that weren't IP that she knew, the intellectual property that she knew, or the characters that she knew, she struggled with because they were in Japanese, and so she couldn't connect with them as well as she could with the English rides in California. So a point here is going to go to California, just it's all in English if you're worried about the language barrier. A side comment from Art is that the toilets in Tokyo Disney are clean. They're super clean. And in the soap dispenser, they, in some of the bathrooms that are like kiddie bathrooms, they actually dispense Mickey-shaped soap, which is super cool. Okay. Yes, Disney Princess, always count on clean toilets. Okay, so before I go to the conclusion and sum up my thoughts, I want to try this new feature here for people on the live stream, which is to start a poll. Okay, so let's see. My poll is going to be, which one is your favorite? Which one, or well, which one is best? And the answer to this is going to be Tokyo Disney, and the other answer is going to be California Disney. And I'm going to click start poll. And all right, so if you are on the live stream, definitely put your thoughts in there, click the buttons, which should be in the chat, as to which one you think is best. Okay, so in conclusion, which resort reigns supreme? Now, Declaring a single simple winner would be a disservice to the unique character of each resort. They are both good in their own ways, but for different people and different priorities, you might like one better than another. We'll get back some numbers when the poll comes back. But if you are the Disney purist and the nostalgia seeker, Disneyland is for you. We heard that from Yip Animation in the chat. I like the original Disneyland because it is the original. The history is unquestioned, the atmosphere is thick with nostalgia, and the classic compact experience is irreplaceable. And it's a pilgrimage for many to the source of the magic. Now, if you're the theme park connoisseur, if you're the adventurous traveler, the destination must be the Tokyo Disney Resort. It is unparalleled in its breathtaking quality, immersiveness, and the unique cultural experience. Make it worth the pilgrimage for the theme park enthusiast. For families with young children, I think the decision is a little bit more nuanced. Disneyland offers the familiarity and comfort of a common language. However, Tokyo Disneyland is absolutely an incredibly safe and clean environment. And the rides themselves, perfect for all ages. The food can definitely be a bit more of a challenge. I will say, having just done family trips to both, for us, it was a easier day at Disneyland. It's just an easier day at Disneyland than it was at DisneySea. But that's because at Disneyland, we know everything. We've been going there for 20 years. It's familiar. It's comfortable. So at the end of a long day, Papa and Mama were much more relaxed at Disneyland than we were today at DisneySea. But also, we don't feel like we have to pack in everything at Disneyland because we've been there a gazillion times. Or DisneySea or Disneyland in Tokyo, we're like really trying to be like, all right, got to get our money's worth today because we're not going to be back here in a little while. And if you are a thrill seeker and an adult, I think it's pretty clear the thrill rides you're going to find at Tokyo Disney. If you're a Star Wars fan, then the answer is definitely Disneyland in California. Okay, the votes are in. The votes say Tokyo Disney, 63%. California Disney, 37%. Those are with 35 votes on the live stream. Thank you for your opinion. So I think that tells me that all of y'all are probably fit in this category of theme park connoisseurs, adventurous travelers. If you think there's some other reason to visit these parks that I didn't mention, go ahead and drop your thought in the chat. And we're going to go ahead and move to Q&A time after I give you this, which is Brandon tallied up the totals, and by the numbers, Tokyo Disneyland came out just with the edge. So I'm glad to see that the votes met the tally as well. But you can see it's not a starker in the votes than they are in here. All right, let's go to Q&A time.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
All right. Yip Animation is given a plus for Downtown Disney. It's got Din Tai Fung. They're getting a Portos and more. Earl of Sandwich as well. Yes, Blue Tornado says 2/3 of the votes go to Tokyo Disneyland. Codgeville of Love says I didn't know anything about Disney parks, but why wasn't Disney World Florida in the running? Because that wasn't this video. I have done a previous video about Disneyland versus Disney World, so I didn't repeat that comparison. And as the two most recent parks that I went to, we just went to Disneyland last week, and we just went to Tokyo Disney 2 months ago. That's why that was this comparison today. Okay. Art says, what is the best non-Disney theme park in the world? Universal Studios? I think I've not been. I've not been to the new Universal Studios Epic Island. They have a new one in Orlando that everybody is saying is absolutely amazing. So, there we go. We'll give it that. Okay. But I also like Universal Studios in Hollywood. I think the studio tour experience that it has is one that is unparalleled. So Ham says I should compare Universal Studios. Okay, compare Universal Studios to Disneyland, maybe? Yeah? Okay, maybe we'll do that. Yip Animation says Griffith Park for the win. Griffith Park. Is Griffith Park a theme park? There must have been a question that I missed on that one. Yip Animation says, have you been to the proposed site of the Mickey Mouse Park? It's right here in the Rancho. It's now home to the Walt Disney Animation Studios. I have not yet. So I'll have to keep my eyes open on that. And Blue Tornado and Shan say, yes, Epic Universe. Thank you. Epic Universe in Orlando. Discipline says, I was binge watching videos about the Abu Dhabi theme parks. Look interesting. I bet they are. Remy D says, Tokyo Disneyland is amazing, but Tokyo in general is not stroller friendly. You had to be creative navigating. Yeah, so huge thing. Right. So we remarked on that. And that was probably one of the things that made our California experience easier. We brought our stroller with the Curious Princess. We always do. And at Disneyland in California, there are so many strollers. And at Disneyland in Tokyo, very few strollers. Because Tokyo is a hard place to navigate with strollers. It's hard to navigate on the public transit. It's hard to bring it there. You can certainly rent them. They have them for rent, but we didn't rent one. So yes, if you stroller navigating, there's like great stroller parking in California. Strollers are like part of the experience for parents with kids. So Ham says, have you been to Nintendo World? Not yet. I've not been since they it's been a while since I've been to Universal Studios in Hollywood. So yeah, there we go. And I guess Discipline says, really, it's not that the issue of DisneySea, it's more of an issue of Tokyo, right? Like if you go to Tokyo and you bring your stroller, it's hard to use in Tokyo. I think that's where that logic went through. So, but there are not as many of them, period, in Tokyo as there are in California. Brand says, does this bring a point to Disneyland? It was wrapped into my conclusion of if you have kids, then California might be better. All right. Some male says, I don't have kids, so I have zero interest in theme parks. Would you still be interested if you didn't have Little Princess? Absolutely. We still love theme parks. As I mentioned, I've had an annual pass to Disneyland from the age of 21 up until COVID time. So we enjoy Disney theme parks. We've been to the Disney Tokyo theme parks multiple times as adults. So I like Six Flags. I like roller coasters. I like that stuff. So maybe I'm just a huge dork. Griffith Park has Walt Disney's Carolwood Barn, 3 railroad attractions, including LALS, where Walt Disney donated their trains, the carousel, and inspired Walt. All right, I'll have to like dive further into those attractions at Griffith Park. Points Traveler says, if you're staying at the Marriott with pre-entry access, how early should you line up for pre-entry access? They'll give you a time when you check into the hotel, and they'll tell you this is your time for early entry. And let's say, for example, that the park is 9 o'clock and your happy magic early entry, whatever they call it, is 8:45. I would recommend getting there at 8:30. You honestly don't need to get there very early because you won't be behind many people. You just need to make sure you are there by that time printed on the ticket. If you are there if it's 8:45 and you were there at 8:46, you will be very sad because you will now be waiting in line for an hour and a half to get in behind all the people in the public. So just make sure you're there ahead of that and plan yourself enough time. That's why I say 15 minutes, because if you get lost, you'll still be able to find your way there. But it isn't really super critical to like get there much earlier, because it takes you like 3 minutes from the time they call in for like everybody to get in. They're really pretty efficient about getting the hotel guests in. Kid Blue Creations, does Tokyo have a lot of mobility scooters like Disneyland does? No, that is a big difference as well. Yip Animation says, have you eaten at the food court across from the McDonald's at Ikspiari? Yes, sure have. I like the food court there. It's like, I feel like those are the two places we generally eat at the Ikspiari shops, the food court down there and the McDonald's that's next to it. Discipline says, thank you for your Legoland videos. I took my daughter last week for her 6th birthday, and your tips came in handy. Hotel was a good value there for early entry. Thank you. Glad to hear that. Yes, if you are visiting Southern California and you've got young kids, 4, 5, 6 years old, Legoland in San Diego County and Carlsbad, definitely high on my recommendation list. It feels a bit like Disneyland did 30 years ago, and by that just mean like smaller, more approachable, easy to get around, park near the front gate. So we currently have annual passes to Legoland. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our giveaway.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right. So it's giveaway time. Today we're going to be giving away another fancy Yellow Productions hoodie right here with the cold fall weather coming up in the northern hemisphere. This is a nice cozy thing to snuggle up with and keep warm, or to put on. In fact, here we can, maybe we won't put it on. It's weird. It's weird to put on clothes during a live stream. So anyway, this is what you're winning if you can answer my question. And my question to you is, what is the cost of a pair of mini ears at Disneyland in California? If you were the first one to put that price into the chat, you will win that sweatshirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. And if you didn't win one and you want to buy one, the sweatshirts have been in the Yellow Productions shop for all of a week. So head over to the Yellow Productions shop. You'll find a link in the description below or right here on the screen, and you can get your very own if you don't win one. And if you wonder when is the next live stream, head on over to the Yellow Productions update.yellow-productions.com. Sign up for the Yellow Productions emailing list, and I'll email you as soon as I have a topic and a time so you never miss another live stream.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
Okay, not the answer I was going for, but a good answer. Killer Chronicles says an arm and a leg. Yes, in fact, they do cost an arm and a leg. The winner is going to be Chopsticks Forever, which obviously is a different name than you usually go by. But Chopsticks Forever, congratulations. You win the Yellow Productions hoodie. Send me an email, chris@yellow-productions.com, and I will get that headed over right to you. If you wonder who is in second place, that was Paranormal Music and Janelle Travelers. A lot of right answers, but Chopsticks Forever was number one. Well, all right, fellow explorers, it's always great hanging out with you, talking about Disneyland, Disney parks, everything travel. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you in the next video.